Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Smithbone, and I am the self titled High Priestess of Sacred Self Love and Spiritual Badassery. And oh my fucking God, it is my absolute pleasure to be here with this goddess today, Jenna, who is an author in an amazing book recently published. Is it Amazon best-selling, Jenna?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Yes.
it is, goddess. Called Unchained Goddess. And we're coming together today to talk about Jenna's involvement in it and her really fascinating perspective. So, Jenna's chapter is called, wait for this, What If It Isn't a Skin Level Thing? Ooh, provocative.
Mm,
So,
definitely.
when we were just chatting before the video came on, you said it was really cool. You said to me, it's a provocative question if you're not into energy work. Can you tell me a little bit more about that without
Absolutely.
giving away the magic of your chapter?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I am an energy healing practitioner and teacher. And so now I haven't always been one. It's something I'm very intuitive. And even as a child, I was very intuitive, but I didn't get into energy healing work until later in my life. And so this perspective that I'm bringing is from the perspective of an energy healing practitioner. And some of the things that I've brought up could be very provocative, very controversial for somebody who is not familiar with energy work or hasn't done it or maybe doesn't even believe in it. And so for me, when I think about challenges or problems or even, good things and things that have happened that are like really wonderful and amazing, I'm like, okay, what's the story of the energy going on? Like what's happening there underlying, our physical experience. And so I think of myself kind of as an energetic detective. And
Love
when
that.
people come to me or when I myself have challenges, if I take a moment to think about, okay, like here's what I'm experiencing, but like what's the energetic story behind it, underneath it, then I can kind of unwind, untangle, become that energetic detective and find out, okay, what's informing this energetically. And that's the perspective that I bring to my chapter
Mm.
and the challenges that many Black women face, and not just Black women, this could be for anyone. When we face these challenges, and maybe we're at our wits' end, we're like, how can I overcome this? How can I deal with this? How can I be the best I can? And how do I do that? And so
Can I read
that's where my
one
perspective.
sentence from your book? Because it
Go
is, I wrote it down because it was so fucking good. Like,
ahead.
honestly, go buy this book. Jenna's chapter is amazing. I made so many notes because it just blew me away. And she says, where she just posed that question, like, when you're stuck, what can you do? What questions can you ask? And she says, look deep within to the soul, to go deep, to be led by the discomfort of recurring patterns, to the old soul traumas, holding these patterns in place like concrete, weighing so many down. I just thought, like, ooh, when you get the shivers, Jen, I just thought that is such a powerful invitation. And it's so practical, actually. It's such a practical invitation you give to people. Do you find when I read your chapter, I felt like it was such a unique perspective because you are coming at it as an intuitive and qualified, talented energy worker? Your perspective is totally different. Has that
Yeah.
resonated with your audience, or like how have you? Can you talk to me a bit more about that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So it's often a yes and a no. Like um it's a mix because for those who have experienced it, so I've worked with people of color to do energy work, and some actually specifically related to these feelings of being wronged, or maybe they have experiences that have happened over and over in their lives and they're like, why is this happening? And maybe they've come to the point where they realize that they can't change anyone else. And so they're starting to think about, well, what can I do myself? And so often people who have come to that point are more open and ready to embrace, like, okay, how can I use energy work to support me? Um, and then I find, on the other hand, people who haven't are not really familiar with it, or not necessarily at that point where they can comprehend it, not in a logical way necessarily, although there are logical explanations, but it's just something that maybe they're not quite ready for. Like, I had an individual I was speaking with, and he was kind of on the fence in a way, because he was like, I know I have this challenge, I want to resolve it, but boy, if I start doing this, it might open a can of worms, and I might my whole life might be upended. And so I think it really depends on where a person is, what they're ready to. When I say responsibility, I don't mean in a way of like, you should do this or that or anything like that, but they're willing to do the work themselves, and they're not willing to, I don't want to say blame, but like project things maybe on other people, or try to get other people to change. They realize that they're so powerful within, or at least they're curious about their power. They're
Yeah.
curious about, well, what could happen, what could I be, what could I do? And those are the types of people who often resonate with this chapter a lot more.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so for me, it's an invitation, like, own and step into your power, or be curious about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Because you
yeah.
say in the book as well, another bit that I can't remember if I wrote it down in my notes or not, but I remember, oh yeah, that you were saying that you support others to
Mhm.
consciously shift their energy rather than creating from an unconscious place.
Right,
And
right.
that to me is another way of saying what you're saying about responsibility.
Hmm,
It's
hmm.
like when you understand your
Exactly.
energetic space in the world, then you
Exactly.
understand that whether you know it consciously or not, you are creating the reality that you are experiencing.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. And that also brings another interesting point up, because
Mm.
when somebody is not conscious of what they're creating, they don't want to be told that anything is, and I don't want to say fault, but that they're creating anything, because they're not quite ready to mm, empower themselves to shift that, because they're not there. And so that can bring up a lot of feelings of fault or blame, which is not necessarily what I would like to, I don't, that's another energy, right? So it's not something that I would want people to feel stuck with. And so this is an opportunity, it's an invitation, rather than a sense of blame or guilt or anything like that, because we've experienced what we've experienced. And while that was in the past, I also think of that as in our energy. It's still kind of with us. And so, whether, if we consciously know it, we can start to see patterns and start to shift that from that conscious perspective and create what we want. And so, until a person is kind of ready to do that, it can be almost offensive in a way to say, like,
It's like, how very dare you tell me I've created this?
exactly. I mean, I think about myself 10 years ago, I wouldn't want to hear that either. And so I absolutely know where some people are coming from, because it can be challenging to look that trauma kind of in the face,
Absolutely.
and take that power back to shift that. So,
Yeah, that's so beautifully expressed. And I just found that your chapter was such a unique, fascinating, and valuable perspective on such a difficult conversation. Because obviously, I'm not a black woman or a woman of
right.
color. I'm a very
Mhm.
pasty white woman, a very pink soul,
Very love.
pink woman.
Very beautiful.
But I loved how you were talking about that. In fact, tell us in your own words, because the way you described it was so amazing. You have a really different perspective on skin color and energy. Could you tell us,
Mhm.
without giving your incredible chapter away, tell us a little bit more about your unique
Yeah,
perspective as energy worker and Black woman.
absolutely. So, so kind of as I was, maybe I expressed it, maybe not, but so for me, I think of myself actually as me first, like in a way. Like I don't think of myself as, like, I like the skin that I'm in. I even did a little test when I was a kid. I was like, look at my parents, look at my friends, like, I'm comfortable like in my skin. But what I talk about is a lot of is the energy, like especially ancestral and generational energy. So what we've experienced in the past and even collectively,
Mm.
that energy can remain with us. And when that energy, which we can't see, right? So that's the
Mm.
real kicker. It's like, how do we deal with this? Um, when it builds up, when it gets stuck, when we have these energies informing how we feel and think, and that translates into how we act and how we react. um, and so in that way, I don't think of it, of course it's a thing related to color, it's
Mm.
a thing related to background, and related to heritage and all of that, but it's deeper than that. And that's why the chapter is, what if it's not just a skin thing? Because that energy and those experiences can inform what it is we're carrying with us in our daily life. And so I've I've worked with individuals to clear out and to shift some of that energy from something that seems completely impossible. Because if you are saying, if it's a skin thing and it's only a skin thing, then I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
you think of it from an energetic perspective, and what's deeper than that, what's hidden there, what's informing those actions and reactions, then, and if it is more than a skin thing, if it is an energy thing, then we have that power to shift that energy and shift our experience, regardless of what other people are doing, what other people are saying, how other people treat us in a way. And so for me, that has been something really empowering,
Mm.
rather than to remain in a sense of victimhood,
Mm.
which is, it's a really challenging experience. And when a person doesn't feel that they can get out of it, because how they feel in their mind is dependent on what other people say and do and think, that is that's a stuck situation. How do you get out of that? And so when we look at it from this energy perspective, it becomes more of an inner power thing, something that you
Oh,
can change and shift and experience, rather than just on the skin level.
wow. That's kind of like the essence of your chapter, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, but Jenna goes into so much more detail and explains it in such beautiful ways. I really would highly recommend get the book, get the book and read the book. Yeah, and did we were chatting beforehand because you got a piece of feedback that I just so admire the way that you went about processing and going deeper with this feedback that you
Mhm.
received. Would you be open to talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So in a way, I practice what I preach, right?
Yeah.
So I actually, so somebody read my chapter, a Black woman, and she was actually even into a bit of energy work, and maybe not herself and like her profession and what she um, did, but aware of it. And when she read it, she mentioned to me, she's like, this doesn't resonate with me. I don't think that the problems that I've experienced are related to soul wounds or energy or things like that. And I absolutely honored her perspective. And I wanted to make sure that I shared with her that, this is your experience. Like, I'm not here to say your experience was or wasn't something like that. And I invited her to have a conversation and talk a little bit more, because I didn't want her to feel hurt, from this. The chapter is not intended to place blame. It's intended to be empowering. And so I really wanted to understand where she was coming from. And so we were able to have a chat and kind of talk about our experiences, um, what we noticed, what we felt growing up as kids, also in partnership with others and experiences that we've had. And I shared with her some other experiences because I have had a few experiences that were related to racism. They're mostly when I was a child. And so we talked a little bit about that because other people have those experiences that continue to experience them even into adulthood. And so we got to share our experiences, and while it didn't change my perspective as far as like how I would handle clearing some of that energy or feelings for myself, I could see, maybe she wasn't quite ready to think of it in that way.
Mm.
Or maybe this was the beginning of something new. And so, I never want to say to anyone that, their experience isn't valid, because of course it is, or
Yeah.
that my perspective is the only one, because obviously it's not. It's something that's helped me and helped other people I work with to come from that place of power rather than feeling that they can't do anything. And
Mm.
so we had a really beautiful conversation. It was
That's
really, really useful, coming not from a place of trying to convince the other of our views, but just being open and sharing. And that's what this book is all about, right?
I
It's going
love
to push
that.
some buttons. It's
I
definitely
love
going to push
that.
some buttons. And it even pushed some of mine. Before we had that conversation, I actually was crying because I was like, I don't want her to feel, you know, victimized. I don't want to feel unable to express myself. And so actually what I did is I did energy work on myself, and I thought, okay, where are these feelings that I'm experiencing coming from, so that I can handle this and go into this conversation with an open heart, and listen and share without without agenda.
Yeah.
And so I actually released some energies that were related to not being able to express myself. And I bet I even wrote them down. I have a couple, um, where it was like some of these energies were even generational issues,
Mm.
the belief of I can't be what I want because others won't be safe. That was an energy that got
Oh
absorbed,
my God, I just got
right?
full body shivers. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Another one was
Ooh.
the energy of despair, which was like 26 generations back on my father's side. So, case in point, like, not just to say, like, but this is what I do. Like, I do it for
Mm.
myself, especially, and I do it for others. And it becomes that empowering tool rather than, feeling that you can't do anything. And it's fascinating too. I mean,
Oh my
it's,
God, it's
yeah.
so fascinating. It's so fascinating. And that the way that I behaved as a leader, I'm just going to say it, behaved as a true integrated leader by doing your own work first, by leaning into your own discomfort, not shying away from it, bringing it into the light of consciousness, clearing it, and then with an open, pure heart saying, I want to learn from you, I want to understand. And it's okay that we have different experiences and different perspectives. Your perspective and my perspective do not invalidate each other. Like
Mm.
that is, when you were just describing that, then I was just thinking that's true leadership. That really is, and it's like real authenticity and integrity, and what it actually means to be spiritual, like what it means to really go into that space with yourself. So how like people who are thinking, oh my God, this woman's energy, she's amazing, I need to work with her. How can they find you? How can they work with you? What are you offering at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm mostly just offering one-on-one kind of
Mm.
sessions, packages, because I like to kind of have a little container to support people in. In the future, I may be doing some group work. In fact, I have an idea that's moving around that I'll probably have some group work coming up in the future.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you can get in touch with me on Instagram. I'm at Jenna's Energetic Adventures. I love chatting with people, so you can send me a DM or say hi. Um, and I also have a YouTube channel where I share some of what I do that's more the sound work that I do. And
Oh,
so that's at Let the Best You Shine. And I share almost every week, or usually some type of sound bath, song bath, where I have a topic or a theme, and I share some what I call them intuitive song transmissions, where the energy comes through the theme in song, and you can kind of just soak it up. So
oh my God. I
yeah.
work with, you don't know this about me, I don't think, but I work with intuitive voice as well.
How do you? That's
Yeah, and
crazy.
when you were just describing that, I just wanted to ask you because
Mhm.
I don't meet many people that get it, but I think you probably will. Do you ever have that thing when you're like making a sound and you can feel it stretching back through the timelines? Like suddenly time has no meaning and you're in like every iteration. Do you know
Yeah,
what I'm talking about?
I'm getting goosebumps right
Yeah. It's
now.
so powerful. Voice work is so powerful. It really
Yeah,
is. What
absolutely.
can, just one more question, because I told you I would only maximum 20 minutes. It's been over that, and I've still got like 1,000 questions. Can I ask you one more question, please, Jenna?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Hmm.
for everyone, again, for everyone who's watching this and who's like, yes, is it primarily Black people, people of color that you work with, or like, is that your clientele, or is it complete mixture? Is it men? Is it women? Like, what is your,
Yeah,
who should be getting in touch with you, and what can you help
that's a
them with?
great question. So while I primarily work with women, I do work with men. Um, it's more of like an energetic compatibility,
The
like
mesh thing.
anyone whose energy is like, yes, I want this, and I can help you, and they want that. I work with people of all backgrounds, all, you know, it doesn't necessarily, they don't have to have a necessarily a type of a culture, heritage, skin color. I work with anyone who's kind of energetically in that space and ready for the work that we do, because it can be really accelerating. So
Do people generally feel, I know with my work, one of the
mhm.
things I hear from people often is that they just knew, they feel this calling.
Mhm. Yeah, I know that. I've often
Do
reached
you
out
have
to
the
people,
same?
and they're like, that's exactly what I needed. This is it. So it is, for me, it is also about that kind of energetic alignment. I think you just kind of know. And when you come across something, you're like, that's it. It feels really, really good. So I am open to working with people who are ready for that and wanting that. Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, go buy the incredible book Unchained Goddess. Go follow Jenna, get in her DMs, have some chats, tell her how amazing she is, because I'm sure as hell going to get her back onto my video interview series when I finally create it. Because honestly, Jenna, like I could chat to you all day. It's so interesting. Me
It's so fun.
chatting to a fellow energy worker that is
Yes,
working
it's
with
so
all the
much fun.
stuff. So thank you so much for letting me get to know you.
Thank you. Thank you. This was really fun. And I just, you just feel really good being able to share something that's heartfelt and share out there. Thank
Yay!
you.
My pleasure.